already.
I was looking at the analytics of the previous episode.
Yeah.
And it seemed like opening with Bitcoin was not a big hit.
Really? What happened?
I noticed less playthrough than normal initially.
We were talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, we opened just talking about Bitcoin technology and kind of disillusionment maybe with larger philosophy around it. And I gather that was not particularly interesting, a topic of interest for...
It wasn't, yeah, I don't even remember talking about that. I usually remember the main thread of each one.
Yeah,
but I mean, a lot of them, I forget like the little ins and outs of...
we got into like the Adam Blavatsky stuff.
Okay, yeah.
As well, right?
Yeah, a few people messaged me privately. They were trying to correct or offer alternate takes on like Nazi occultism.
Oh yeah,
which is the perennially popular topic.
Yeah.
So, trying to see what. Aaron was sending me some books about. Where was it? Okay, yeah, the occult roots of Nazism, and I think this is a topic he's interested in. So
right.
He was sending me some books that offer.
Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that I like heard in passing about them, like being super into like aliens and demons and whatnot.
So I think there's I think what it is there were some SS members that were interested in occultism, but it doesn't seem to have been anything like mainstream in Nazism. Well, again, like Hitler is basically coming out and saying, Nazism is not occultism, and he basically gave some kind of mini speech where he said like occultists can't be Nazis. So I mean, it's a pretty hard line in the sand, but I guess like some SS members and maybe Himmler or some of them were like interested in it, and I don't know, had some kind of take. I mean, I haven't read these books, to be fair, so maybe there's maybe my take is wrong, and there was some Nazi mysticism going down, but I don't think it was. I still just always come back to like Hitler was just too boring to have anything to do. Basically anything interesting, like Hitler kind of just hated.
Right.
Like he hated interesting art. He hated, interesting religious stuff. He hated, human freedom. So, right. I mean, like
anything that wasn't structured.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty conservative. I mean, like, I think he liked institutional Christianity just because it was like conservative, right? Just so
pure boredom.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't like a believer, but I think he liked the social structure aspect just because it was like a conservative influence on the German society. So, yeah, I mean, this is just one of those topics that like people are really like think is a thing, but I don't think it really. I don't think there's like really much meat there. Actually, I mean, there might be a little bit, but I don't think it's such a.
Certainly, what's the word? Sensational, I guess, right? Like it looks good on the cover of a book.
Or, I mean, it's a cool idea, but I think the reality was pretty. Maybe not as much there for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess one of us would need to read the book to understand the core argument for why they may have been into it.
Yeah.
If at all, but
I might take a look at it. I mean, it's not really a huge area of interest for me, but I mean, it's certainly interesting in the abstract, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So Bitcoin wasn't popular.
No.
Yeah. kind of. I mean, that's one of the things is like I think people that are well, kind of like this techno optimism or
Right.
or whatever, like people that are in the tech industry. Like this seems obvious, but like people that are in the tech industry are obviously more
Right.
likely to be tech optimists. But like people that aren't in the tech industry are like probably less
pretty
likely.
sick and tired of hearing about it, right?
Yeah. So it's sort of like if the world is sort of revolves around your area of specialty and concerns, then yeah, it's probably going to seem like things are getting better. But everyone else is sort of like, yeah, maybe not so much, right?
Mm.
I mean, I would say I'm like probably on the, I would say like I'm actually on the tech optimist end compared to other people I know that are like, oh yeah, like you're too tech optimist, or like, you know,
are they more like I don't know, doom and gloom about it? Like
they're really tech negative.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, it's very people I collab with regularly are very tech negative, and this is all all these things are getting worse. Like ChatGPT getting better means the world is getting worse, and the internet advancing is.
I feel like you have to like fight against so much momentum to like think that, I guess.
How do you mean?
Well, just like, I don't know. I mean, can you be how do you pronounce it? Luddite?
Yeah.
Luddite?
Well, people that
in the 21st century, like, I mean,
definitely, man. Yeah.
But I mean, we're just so far down this hole, right? Like,
oh, you would think so, but I mean, there's people that definitely,
but does this come from the same vein of who are we talking about previously? Locke's contemporary, the noble savage,
Rousseau.
Rousseau, right?
Yeah. Well, there's that aspect of it. Well, I mean, there's people that basically think the past was better, are like not techno optimists. So they think that like basically, like people that think that like the Middle Ages was like good or better, or people that think even just like 100 years ago was better, are probably not going to be tech optimists, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Can you was it better? I don't know. We talk about this a lot though. I think the answer is no, basically.
I don't think it was better. Yeah. I definitely don't think it was better. I definitely don't think the Middle Ages was better either. And I think everything to do with the Middle Ages was kind of a disaster,
right?
Like feudalism and other things. But yeah, I mean, there's people that think it was better, because people were living in touch with nature and touch with the land, or for various reasons. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people that are very tech negative, or tech pessimism. If that's techno optimism, I guess there's techno pessimism.
So yeah, just to level set, we were talking about this. I don't even know how you pronounce it, but de-accelerate or decentralized acceleration, defensive acceleration. My techno optimism by Vitalik Buterin, who is one of the core developers of Ethereum, which is the blockchain of Bored Apes and NFTs and whatnot, kind of like the second largest by market cap blockchain after Bitcoin. And yeah, also just to level set, like I think basically this is a blog post by him where he's talking about his general, I guess, kind of outlook on the progress of technological advancement, and he's generally optimistic about it, but he is cautious about a few areas where like the risk of messing it up, he believes is great. The potential sorry, losing my words here.
Downside.
Yeah, the potential downside of messing up certain fields kind of justifies disproportionate caution, not disproportionate. And I think one of the fields is AI, basically.
Yeah. There's another thing where people think that, like, I guess it's kind of like that thing where, like, Yudkowsky was really worried about AI or something. Well, I mean, like, I feel like Yudkowsky is another person where, like, I feel like people that, for whatever reason, like, people that are working in tech are, like, more likely to,
Who's Yudkowsky?
like, Eliezer Yudkowsky. He's
No.
one of the, he created that Less Wrong community. And he's active in a lot of these, like, I think he's quoted in there, actually.
Oh, yeah?
He's
Okay.
quoted, yeah. So, so this guy would know who he is.
Mm.
But again, a lot of his, I mean, well, he supports things that are really seem kind of silly to a lot of people that aren't in that headspace, I guess. Like, you know, like cryonics or something. You know, he's like really like, oh, definitely invest in cryonics and blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, he's really worried about AI as well. And a lot of people are like, well, we got enough problems without having to worry about AI too much. But so yeah, I mean, I guess it's a matter of perspective where, you know, whether it's optimist or pessimist. I mean, I think a lot of the people I know are basically techno-pessimists just because they hate, you know, these people so much. Like they deeply hate Elon Musk and
kind of futurists and transhumanists.
I mean, I think like the problem is that like most futurists are like deeply unlikable. I mean, like like Yudkowsky. I mean, if you see what he looks like and you see how he actually sounds, I mean, it's just like, wow, like, do not want this dude deciding anything about the human future. I mean, Kurzweil is sort of, I guess there's a sense in which they're just like kind of the personal motivations for a lot of this are very, you know, it's if their motivation is just like, oh, I don't want to die or something.
Right.
Like Kurzweil's motivation is just like, you know, he doesn't really want to personally die.
Right.
It's like, well, you're definitely gonna die, dude. Like, sorry, but so I think there's that side of it too, where I think the human reality of a lot of futurists is kind of, I don't know, like a lot of people are like, well, if these people are designing the future, like we don't really want to be there,
right?
Right? Like we don't want to be in this techno utopia that these people are. Well, I mean, like we don't want the Silicon Valley future, I guess.
Right.
Seems pretty. Maybe seems okay if you're working in Silicon Valley, but
if you've already drank the Kool-Aid,
but a lot of other people are like, well, yeah, like we don't really want these people designing the world because you know, don't really like them or their takes on things. Which I guess is gonna always be a problem. I mean, again, I can kind of see both sides. Like, I would describe myself as more on the optimist side than the pessimist side. But I can certainly kind of see both. I mean, I've been accused of being too techno-optimist. Like someone interviewed one of my, you know, friends and collaborators, and like he was interviewing him in a way where he's like trying to almost cast me as like some evil, you know, techno-futurist that was gonna, you know, destroy everything that's good about the past, and it was kind of trying to paint me as like some. I don't know why. I mean, I was like, wow, like I wouldn't describe it as that techno optimist, but I mean, that's sort of the way he was trying to.
Well, yeah, I mean, knowing you, that doesn't. Yeah, it seems like a weird way to try and paint you, basically, because you're not. I don't know. You're not
even a software engineer, but I mean, that's what. Yeah, so he was asking these very like leading questions.
You're quite neutral on this sort of stuff in general.
Well, I would say like I would say I'm probably more on the optimist side than on the pessimist side. I mean, I'm certainly not losing any sleep worrying about it.
Right.
So, and I would say like I'm cautiously optimistic, but yeah, there's people that are very techno-pessimist. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a matter of. I mean, you certainly probably wouldn't have met many at this conference. 'Cause
Basically, no.
Basically, a tech conference. So, so you're probably gonna meet more optimists there, I would say. But yeah,
I'm trying to imagine what a tech pessimist conference would even look like. I mean, be hard to even get them off the farm, I guess, to gather at a convention center for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI gone rogue is certainly a scary possibility, but I don't know. I think we're still kind of far from that. I think I previously mentioned like I could see AGI within like 10 years or something, but
what, like just an independent AI, general intelligent AI,
like AGI?
Yeah, ooh, isn't that what that means? Is like
AGI means artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like actual
like independently functioning, or
I don't know about independently functioning. I guess it would be able to function independently, but like, you know, ChatGPT is just like a language model, right? Like it just like strings words together, basically, right?
Yeah.
Or words like bits of information.
Units,
yeah. So can code, which is interesting, somewhat, but I don't know, arguably not very smart yet.
Yeah.
I was reading this week though. It sounded like they hit issue with so it's like ChatGPT 4 is their or GPT 4 is their latest model.
Okay.
And they've been teasing or talking about or working on GPT 5. But what came out this week, I think, in an internal leak or similar, was they weren't seeing the same huge jump in performance that they got from like GPT-3 to like 3.5 to 4. So like started plateauing basically.
Okay, yeah.
Because like up until now, the industry as a whole seems to have been operating under this sort of hypothesis
like
of
Moore's law kind of thing, where it's just exponentially getting better all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically just trying to throw more hardware and more data at it, right? So like the bigger the model you can construct, like the smarter it will be type of thing. But it sounded like with, I'm sure there's a few different issues, but one of the main things was just like running out of high quality data to train your model on.
It's running out of data.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, you've processed all of Reddit and built a model on that. Or, okay, like you're trying to make it better at coding, but like you don't have access to high quality coding examples. So like, okay, you can feed more garbage into it, but like it won't produce a smarter model, right?
It just kind of reminds me of what we were talking about with one of the previous ones, where I said like, you know, like random people like, you know, Frank Miller or Alan Moore are actually, like, you might not have heard their names, but like they're actually responsible for like, you know, something like 15 to 20 movies each that you like wouldn't necessarily have connected, right?
Right.
So like the amount of people actually producing things on a certain level is maybe less than would be assumed, I guess.
Right.
Or like if you didn't have maybe like a certain, I don't know, 10 or 20 people, you'd lose maybe like several hundred movies or something, but you wouldn't have really thought of it that way.
Right.
Because they like don't really seem connected or something, right? So yeah, the amount of people operating on a certain level is actually kind of like smaller than it might seem, I guess. Even like worldwide.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's no shortage of people operating on a very like low level or whatever. But I mean, the percentage of people actually operating on kind of a certain high level is not that high. I mean, I don't know if that's the case with coders or whatever. But
yeah, I
sorta,
mean, I think so. Yeah, there's the concept of like a 10x engineer, which is basically like basically a genius, right? Just like someone who's able to operate at 10 times the quality of like the average engineer, basically able to do the job of 10 engineers. And I've met a few in my day. Yeah. Yeah, it's humbling, I guess, because you realize where you are actually on the totem pole of, I don't know, problem solving, basically. But yeah, they're pretty, they get snagged up basically by like Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, right? Like, it's hard for them to not get sucked up there, and then you get wrapped up.
So just kind of disappear into these big companies, and then you don't really
probably lose a lot of autonomy, and probably lose a lot of creativity, or I don't know, like ability to like actually build something cool, because you just kind of
doing a job description. That's it. Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe maybe they are put into these sort of high impact positions and are able to work on a team on some project like Chat GPT. So maybe their talent is hopefully used correctly.
I used to know this. I used to know someone who's like a higher up at NVIDIA, and it did sound like he had a fair amount of freedom with what. Like it did sound like he was kind of hopping around between projects and doing AI stuff, kind of graphics kind of stuff, like all flipping all over the place and doing some interesting things. And interestingly, he did tell me that I think like 10 years ago he was telling me about the AI training sets that he was working on, and I was like, well, it'd be cool if it does something interesting in 10 years. And 10 years later, I mean, maybe sort of. I mean, I think it's interesting in a way, but I think there's, I think, people in the 90s had kind of like these fantasies about what it would be like by now, or what it would be doing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly with the picture, Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah. Kurzweil was painting all these
but
elaborate.
He paints this like very smooth, like quadratic function, exponential function, where like each discovery is snowballing on all the other ones, and it just builds and builds and builds. But I mean, kind of going back to what we were just saying with Chat GPT, like. The reality
like plateaus a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll eventually take off in some weird way, but it might just plateau for.
Well, it could happen in like stages or something, because we kind of saw in the last few years the explosion of the sort of generative artificial intelligence, like ChatGPT and what's the image generation one, DALL-E or whatever.
DALL-E, yeah. I think some of that stuff is quite amazing, and there is like, but again, it is a limited handful of people that are doing really interesting work with it. But
like I think as a general tool, I mean, basically, like now you have access to experts on many things in your pocket, right? And granted, you need to take all the suggestions with a grain of salt, and if you
Google, or like just Googling things, or
ChatGPT as a replacement for Google.
Oh, using ChatGPT. Right? I've actually never used it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
I don't think I've ever used it. Just because, I mean, there's nothing I would really. I feel like Google is just already so much information. And it's
but so like. I'm recovering from an illness, like for last week, so sorry if a bit lower energy than normal, but
I'm also not in the best energy spirits or whatever.
But we're here,
still
doing
in,
it. Yeah.
Clocking in. Someone left. There were a few comments that came on YouTube.
Oh, interesting.
Recently, if you saw them. Or?
Yeah, I didn't have the chance to catch up on them, but I saw Jeff replied on
You replied to the
the
previous
one,
video,
not the last one. Did you read it?
Yeah, it was just kind of describing the U.S. I guess
the political situation,
what it feels like at ground level, I guess, in the
Hmm.
U.S. And then Ryan, one of my friends from the group, I think, replied and said that cash is king.
Cash is king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He messaged me privately too, and he's like, "Yeah, just it's all about the cash, you know. Don't need
All
any of
about
that.
the greenbacks.
It's all about the greenbacks,
vengeance.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an interesting dude. We did this neo-decadent grant back in the day where we were trying to sponsor various projects that would be of interest. So we put up like 500 US or something for any proposals, and he sent in a pretty interesting proposal, and he's like, well, I'm just gonna get some of that cookable substance and that you use needles for,
Mm-hmm.
and experiment with that, and see how it goes, right? So we're like, yeah, sounds like a project. So he won the initial grant for his injectable project there.
I think we can just say. Can we just say
You
it?
could probably just say it.
Are you stepping around it for monetization or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah. But so heroin.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was his. So he said
that was the submission.
I think he sent in a 10-page proposal
on how he's going to shoot heroin.
Yeah. He's like, I need to explore these areas of experience more deeply.
Okay.
Visit various zones of the mind, and so he did send in a very well written application.
Did you approve his grant request?
I approved it. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like,
what were the findings?
Yeah, I think he never submitted a formal follow up, but I think he eventually moved on from that. But he was in that for a while.
That's good.
And
I guess.
Yeah. I think he had some other health problems. You might be listening to this. If you're listening, Ryan, give a shout out or something.
Hope you're well. Hope you're.
I think he is. I think he's in a good place at the moment. From last I heard. Interesting.
What are you doing enabling such reckless behavior?
Well, I mean, I think it was more the spirit in which he undertook it. I mean,
Okay.
if he wasn't gonna consider it seriously or consider it as a project, I guess, then probably wouldn't have approved it. But but I think the spirit in which he undertook this opioid, research was well intentioned.
The application for the grant seems to have been performed diligently, but the conclusive report, the final report was not submitted.
Still waiting on that. So might get some kind of follow up at some point. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
But yes. Sorry, where'd you want to go?
Oh no, yeah. I was he was just talking about cash or something versus comments, cash or other comments. Yeah.
Which I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but my whole thing with anyway, won't get into that quite yet because I don't think it's that interesting ultimately. But so what I want to say was regarding being sick. There's a while where I was like considering going to the hospital
in Thailand or
no here.
Oh, here, okay.
Yeah, having come back. And yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is if not a doctor, at least a nurse in your pocket that you can talk to. Okay, like how serious are these symptoms? Like realistically, what? So yeah, I don't know. You could Google it, but then you're like sifting through WebMD or whatever. But or you can message or literally talk to ChatGPT, and it's basically like nicer
gives like
human
recommendations or kind of.
But I mean, like you can talk to it like a human, right? So it's like a lot. Especially if you're like sick and you're not, able to parse information, like read well, or like really
and just kind of like sound off about it.
at least you can use ChatGPT as a sounding board to kind of I don't know, get a general idea.
sense of what's
Obviously,
up, yeah.
don't take everything it says with full
yeah
gravity, I guess,
yeah.
but yeah, you can definitely like break it and abuse it and make it say silly stuff if you're trying to,
Well,
but otherwise,
isn't the logical endpoint just like a very vast number of different chat GPTs with like different values or something?
like
Like
areas of expertise or
well,
domains.
I just mean in the sense of like, let's say you have like trying to think of a example, but well, let's say you have like some Kurzweil modeled chat GPT, and then you have like I don't know, Saudi Arabian Islamic chat GPT. Like presumably they would have different takes on things.
Could, yeah.
So like, isn't that, I mean, is that already happening, or is that like,
yeah, like specialized models are definitely an area of research. Probably, like coding specific models, or
well, I mean, there's people that talk, like, I guess presumably this guy talking about like what would be and Yodkowski was always worried about that too. Like, what if we have a, improperly aligned AI or something?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck does that, like, what can that, what do you even mean by that? Like, what could that possibly mean?
Well, I think the classic example is the paperclip factory AI.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
yeah.
If you task an AI to make paperclips, it'll turn the whole world into paperclips, basically.
Yeah, but I think there's already, I think even without an example like that, like, again, just kind of like I said, like if you took the Silicon Valley aligned AI and like the, I don't know, Saudi Arabian Muslim aligned AI, like they probably, even like medical stuff, like they probably would sort of give different advice or like different. So,
well, that's kind of, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, isn't it gonna eventually end up where it's just like the equivalent of like some kind of Google, where you're like, okay, like I get 6 different results and they all say totally different things or something.
It could, yeah.
I mean, it seems like the logical endpoint where if that
it all depends, I guess, like what you train the models on.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's people complaining about that already. They're like, oh, ChatGPT is too woke, or it's giving biased takes or whatever.
Yeah,
it's giving liberal takes on things rather than I don't know, whatever thing they would prefer.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like ChatGPT isn't as good at Japanese as it is at English, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a very Anglo-centric
kind
of model overall.
Yeah.
And I think one of the issues, again, like training the Japanese AI on high quality Japanese data is difficult
because there's not enough of it.
There's not enough of it. And like I guess you need Japanese engineers to parse the data and determine what's high quality and trainable.
Sift through it.
So just kind of it's its own problem, I guess, basically, right? Then like I don't know. Same question with like medical stuff, right? If you're trying to create a medical AI, like what data, who's able to determine which data is suitable to train on. Yeah. So that could just be the fundamental bottleneck is like, like how can you continue improving this?
Inputs.
Yeah. And so the take I read was, and it's kind of already there with GPT-01, I believe is their latest model, which is still like beta. But what it does is it basically thinks before replying. So there's like an extra computation step.
To what? Like to just like review what it's coming out with? Or like,
yeah. So I guess it like kind of loops on its own input before like giving you the final output.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Like apparently it does better for kind of SAT test stuff, and apparently for coding as well. I didn't find it drastically better at coding.
It seemed too different. Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, I found it like even like hallucinated more.
Hallucinated, but so it's just giving nonsensical outputs.
Like, and it gives you a super thorough breakdown of like the steps of like why it's doing this. But when you're actually like looking at it, you're like, yeah, this.
That's kind of cool. Like, I'd be interested to see something like that where it's like having a hallucination or something. It's kind of a cool concept.
It does it with coding quite a bit, where it will just like invent library functions or something. Or it's like this, like what there is no standard function for, I don't know, like multiplying powers or whatever, but they'll like confidently say that there is, right?
Okay, yeah. And then you're like something that doesn't correspond to reality.
And then you're like, you can reply to it and be like, hey, this function doesn't exist, and it's like, oh yeah, my bad. And then like tries to give you another solution, which could also be bad.
Just totally nuts or something. Wow. That's kind of interesting, right? Yeah, I never thought of that.
You should try and play around with ChatGPT right now. They have an app. You can talk to it.
Just talk and download and try it.
I was kind of thinking about it, like could be interesting. Like you could theoretically plug it in as a third
podcaster.
Microphone. Yeah.
But would it? I mean, like, wouldn't you have to like just address it, or like it wouldn't just chime in with like its own
that would be
takes or something, right?
That, I mean, well, it would try and chime in, but it would try and chime into literally everything.
Okay, if you just let it run free, it would just try to respond to everything.
So you could like trigger it and like deliberately address it and let it reply, and could try that as an experiment.
Could try to do that. And
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, could try it.
Okay,
see if it comes out with something usable.
Yeah, I'd need to think about how it can be plugged up. Yeah, but just
try
thinking
to do it
out loud.
at some point.
Okay, well,
no one has tried to do that. Like
it's a good question. I'm sure they have. Yeah,
AI podcast or something.
Yeah, there's another one.
I feel like we would lose some techno-pessimist viewers though.
Possibly,
might not stand for that.
Yeah.
Stand for that class of citizen being included on the podcast, or stand for that non-human riffraff being given a platform.
Yeah, this is a human first podcast.
It's a human first podcast, yeah.
Or it should be.
Can't have those digital riffraff being allowed on. Yeah.
There's another product or AI product called man, I forget what it's called, Notebook LLM or something. It's a Google product, but basically it's a notes app which has the feature that it can take the document and turn it into like a audio discussion between like male and female AI. So you can literally just generate a podcast, right? Like just paste the text material and then
paste random text and have people act it out. Yeah, AI voice acting.
Yeah, but like so they'll like they'll report on it, right? Like it's not like a script that you feed it, but you could like
so it can like improvise things or kind of come out. That could be kind of interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the going ons in the AI world. But yeah, so I was in Bangkok. Everything on time here, 40 minutes. Have you been to Thailand before?
Just very briefly, man. I mean, I've like transitioned over, and I had maybe like a day or two to burn, like while waiting for connecting flights. So just went around a little bit in Bangkok, but I've never done like a full vacation there, full trip there.
Did you get out much while you were there, or
just
not really?
Just going around Bangkok. So just walking around a little bit in the city, getting some food, but never had like a full holiday experience there. Yeah. Definitely a cool place, though. Somewhere I'd like to spend more time in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, the contrast is very high. Like, I guess the malls are very luxurious and whatnot, and some venues are very luxurious,
Yeah.
but
Super countryside, probably.
well, not even super countryside, right? Just like step outside, the venue,
a little bit different. Yeah.
you know, the sidewalk is either non-existent or half broken down. You know, tons of traffic, right? Like you definitely, you know, random shanty constructions,
Right.
I guess,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
across the street from like a, you know, multi-million-dollar mall or something.
Just like a little tent or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Not even tent, like the sheet metal stuff.
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Very
sheet metal constructions.
that, I guess that's what happens when you don't have winters, basically. Like,
yeah, right. You don't have to worry about super freezing cold or anything,
or snow, like
snow,
putting pressure on the structures and whatnot. I guess they have heavy rain and whatnot, but
don't they have like a monsoon season or something, or kind of a storm season,
like a dry season and a wet season, but otherwise it's like summer year round.
Yeah. That
So,
must be weird though. I wonder if you'd have like, I wonder if it would be like better for health actually, or if it'd be
like more stable.
Maybe, yeah, it might be.
Probably just depends what you're used to overall, I guess. Like,
well, I feel like people usually have worse health during seasonal changes. Like more people get sick like when the seasons change versus, I don't know, if there's just one, maybe you wouldn't have that effect, or don't really know. But
I mean, I wonder if it's like there's probably nothing inherent to the season itself changing, and like if I had to guess, it's more so like, okay, well, you know, it's 10 degrees Celsius out today, but you dressed like it was still 20 or something.
Yeah,
because
could be something like that. Just not preparing for it properly. Yeah.
But I guess if you have a stable temperature, then you don't need to prepare or anything, right? Yeah.
So did you like get to explore that much this time?
Not much.
You're just mostly at conference, or
just back and forth from the conference and the hotel primarily. Which I mean, the first time, I had one vacation in Thailand like a decade ago, where I spent more time. It was like in Phuket and in Koh Tao, like one of the islands there. So had a small taste then, I guess. But yeah, otherwise, both times I was in Bangkok, I was basically just very short, like non-leisurely vacation, I guess. Yeah.
So you're just attending like conferences the whole time, basically?
Basically, okay. Just conference and hackathon. Yeah. I showed you the hacker
what
cave.
Did that even entail? Like, what was happening with that? You're just hacking random.
It's like
hacking the mainframe, or
no, it sounds. It's not that exciting, but
like that movie from the '90s called Hackers with Angelina Jolie.
I've never actually seen it. I've seen clips of it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's basically like a science fair experiment, right? It's like like everyone has to create their science fair experiment in 48 hours or whatever, and then present their best creation.
Is it like just a program, or like what?
Just a program, basically.
Kind of program
or some kind of technological innovation, I guess. Yeah.
There's like prizes for it.
Sponsors and like use our technology and build something. It's fine. I don't know. I don't know if the world.
Did anything interesting come out of it, or was it just?
Man, I mean, I was like pretty like out of it towards the end of the.
Super paying close attention. Yeah.
Like was pretty ill and not really able to take things in too fully. So I'm not sure what the sort of coolest thing was. I'm sure people built cool stuff, but my head was just not really
on the right place
there.
for it.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about it previously, but just like, would it be nicer to live in Thailand? We talked off mic.
Probably would be pretty nice, right? I mean, if you, I guess if you had if you had sufficient good income to,
money definitely goes a lot further there. Yeah. I was talking with one guy at this side event who, I think he was originally from San Diego, but has been living in Thailand for, I don't know, a decade or whatever. He was like, the amount he was paying in property taxes in the US could afford like a driver, a cook, and private school for his kids in Thailand. Right. Yeah, like it definitely, like a single dollar goes a lot further there. But you have to live in Southeast Asia, I guess, right?
Still not really seeing the downside here.
I mean the contrast compared with Japan is very big, I guess. But elaborate. You don't see the downside.
Well, I guess this is just like, I would much rather live in Southeast Asia than like, I don't know, Texas or something. Like I literally see no upside to living in like, I don't know. I mean, I could see okay, California is like a pretty nice weather and like decent, but even that, I mean, it's like the freeways, and it's just like, so it's hard to like get places. You can't really like walk anywhere.
Right.
You can't really. I just really see next to no upside, I guess. Like, what would be the upside, I guess? I'm just really not seeing it.
It's probably I think what's said is like, if you're rich, basically the quality of life you can have in the US is
and so if you're rich and you're like, okay, I maybe need healthcare, or like I need, some things like that. Like, yeah, you could have a crazy probably quality of life, but if you're not rich, then like, what are you really? I mean, you're probably getting raped by healthcare. You're probably getting, other expenses and like things that you're not really. There doesn't seem to be terribly much upside, otherwise.
Yeah, if you're basically, it's like if you're working class, kind of, getting by in the U.S., you could be like wealthy in Thailand, basically, and like have a pretty like kind of upscale.
Well, that's
life,
that's sort of the thing that would come out when people are like, these people that would like go on like shooting sprees in the U.S. and like, there's a few of them that were like pretty doing financially okay, and they just had like, personal problems or something. And like a lot of people would comment like, why don't you just go to Thailand or something? Or like, why don't you just take your money from your job and like just spend like 2 years in like, I don't know, Cambodia or something, or, Thailand or some, Philippines or something.
Yeah.
And like with what you made in a year in the US, like, you could probably just chill for like.
Lack of creativity, I guess, is the answer.
Lack of lateral thinking.
Yeah.
Like, rather than literally ending your life and going on a murder spree or something, like you could like, you could probably just do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, in following the election result, I think it reignited some of the sort of, immigration, interest in immigration, right? Saw at least one guy I follow posted the video specifically on how to move to Thailand from the US.
Oh, because they're like trying to flee the US or something, or
but he's I think living in China still, or maybe he's in Thailand now. But he was basically like, it's not that difficult.
It's actually that difficult to just
make the jump, and people should. I think. I think people should.
I never can see any like. Yeah, I mean, unless you're like living a specific sort of like rich person lifestyle, I'm just like, what? I just cannot see any real upside to the US at this point.
I think just culturally people are brainwashed into a sense of patriotism.
Well, they are, and I think they're brainwashed with a lot of things where they're like,
It's the same thing. Like, why do people live in New York, right? Like,
yeah,
your apartment's tiny, it's expensive.
yeah,
You know, the heat, you don't control the heat. Like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
superintendent turns it on, and
yeah,
when they turn it on, you have to, like, suddenly it's boiling hot, and you have
yeah,
to open the window to let in cold
yeah.
air to balance it out. Like, what? Like, why are you? But it's New York. It's the greatest city in the world, I guess,
I think
right?
we're,
Like,
I think we're like still, I think we're like still in this like weird after period of like the US being kind of just so globally influential in the 20th century.
yeah.
But like realistically, like we're only like a quarter into this century. We're like not even like we're not even really a quarter into this century. So like I feel like probably even 25 years from now, like is anyone really going to care about the US? Like is it going to seem
Yeah.
like this amazing prestigious country like it kind of did in like I don't know 1975 or something? Like yeah, I mean okay, like it's like 1965 55 65 75. Like okay, American culture is everywhere, everyone's copying it, everyone wants to live there, you know, it's got a crazy economy, right? But is that going to be the case in 2050, 2060, 2070? I'm not really seeing it because like I'm not even really seeing it now.
Right.
Right? Like so is it going to magically correct course and like become great again or something? Like kind of doubt it. I mean, I'm not really seeing that.
One of the talks at the conference
Yeah.
basically floated the idea that we're living in a time of how would you describe it? Basically, like the nation state identity is losing power.
Yeah.
Just yeah, like
I don't know if that's the case though, because I think people are very still invested in nation states. I mean, China's still holding the fort.
yeah,
Other
I mean
countries as
from
well.
the outside, right?
Yeah.
But do we like so what that person suggested basically is we'll see a return to sort of like local, not local, but sort of yeah, smaller tribal identities, right? Like so I
Mm,
know Bavarians, not Germans, right? Or
yeah.
you know, like Cantonese people, not like just China as a monolithic like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
thing, right? Um,
Yeah. There's that sense of it, but I think the global connectivity is gonna play a role too. Where, um, I mean, it might break down more from that rather than from like extreme localism or something. Like, I mean, nations might just mean less than like I don't know corporations or something, right? So
yeah,
it might be a. I mean, that was always kind of like the cyberpunk idea
right.
is that like individual countries don't really matter. It's just
It
corporations,
becomes a
right?
corporation.
So
Yeah,
the rather than being loyal to like a country, you're kind of like just loyal to whoever
yeah.
employs you or you know whoever is organizing the area, which
hmm
is usually like a corporation
Yeah,
of
yeah,
some kind.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Which yeah, that's still very much on the table. I think.
Mm.
What is it like? Apple. If Apple were a country, it would be like the third richest country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's things like that, right? Where
Yeah.
that's sort of what they thought would happen with like the early cyberpunk, you know, books and everything.
It's kind of amazing that that hasn't happened yet. I guess just based on like
Well, in practice, it sort of has, right? I mean, you know, Google, Apple, Facebook. I mean, pretty.
But they still pay taxes.
They
basically,
do,
right?
but they're still pretty
At least to some
reaching.
amount.
Yeah, but they're reaching a point where they sort of are influencing, politics
Right.
and directly impacting, elections and other things. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna. I think the line is probably gonna get pretty blurry.
Sounds
pretty
like
quickly.
Google's under a lot of pressure to be disassembled. Basically, like it sounds like they're being forced to sell Chrome,
Oh, really?
and are basically being forbidden from, creating another browser.
Why?
I think anti-monopoly
Oh,
stuff.
just
I
because they
think.
got such a monopoly on it.
Yeah,
or-
well, they have a monopoly on like everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like they've gotten too big,
Too
basically,
big for
according
their,
according to the nation state, right?
Yeah.
So kind of an interesting potential face off between mega corporation and 20th century
yeah,
nation state type concept.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they like in some of those novels they had like franchulate states where like like the United States is literally divided into like Eastern Apple and Southern Google.
Right.
So the companies just employ private police for those areas. There's kind of different economies. The economy kind of functions a little bit differently in each area. But that's what it is. It's like you cross the border and you're like now entering Facebook or now entering McDonald's or something.
Right,
They just
right.
all kind of have their own kind of franchise state based on a corporation or whatever.
What book is this?
Snow Crash.
Snow
by
Crash?
Neil Stevenson.
Okay. Rings a bell, but no, I haven't.
He also
haven't read it.
he also apparently invented cryptocurrency.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, he didn't like code it, but he wrote a book in the 90s called Cryptonomicon, where that's like basically the plot point is that like people are trying to create cryptocurrency, and then other people are like, nah, they shouldn't create it, right? So it turns into a bit of a kind of a thriller race to develop it or fund it, or well, it's kind of like the idea of this like data haven and having kind of off the grid storage of things and transactions, right? So it's an interesting book which I read when I was in high school, I think, if I remember right.
Was like what he called cryptocurrency, was it like decentralized?
Yeah,
like,
it was basically decentralized, and
so it was basically the whole concept.
I remember he got into that, and just kind of the idea of having untraceable or like uncrackable like data havens where you could like store things, and
Interesting
okay. Book.
Yeah,
very long book. I mean, if I remember right, it was almost like 1,000 pages.
And what year was this?
I think 1998 or something.
I see.
Remember it came out when I was in early high school, I think. So probably like 98 or 99. Interesting. Again, very, very long book, but had some interesting stuff in it, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd need to look into how it defined all that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like it was just this theme of I think the starting point was just like cryptography in general, and like how can you, like he started with the history of how can you encode information so it can't be like broken, basically. So he went back into history, and so he imagines there's this book called the Cryptonomicon, which is like passed down in each generation, and they just update it with the next development. So it starts out in like the like the Middle Ages, where they're just doing like hand ciphering things, right? And then and then they update it when they have like early cipher machines, right? which is like mechanically generating, ciphers and stuff using like an actual machine. And then they get into World War II, where they had those. Was it like the analog encryption computer? Which they had to update every day or something, because they would change the, like cracking the Nazi codes or whatever.
Blanking on what that thing's called.
So it's sort of what was it? I'm trying to see.
It wasn't Turing machine. There's some other.
It gets into that too. So actually, he uses Alan Turing as a character and gets into the various difficulties which Alan Turing faced as a homosexual mathematician fighting World War II, and he kind of credits Alan Turing with like winning World War II, which kind of was actually the case in a lot of ways.
Well, like without his ability to, without his help.
Well, without developing those.
Yeah,
basically analog computers. Oh yeah, Ultima was. Or wait, no, not Ultima. It was
Enigma.
Enigma,
right?
Yeah, Enigma, right?
But it was actually called something else before that.
Ultra was one. Enigma, and then Ultra was I think the program code name or whatever.
Machine, yeah.
They had these like analog kind of computers, which were. I think they came up with data storage during that period too, using like mercury or something. There's like some. I think they had like the actual first analog computers they started building at that time. But yeah, so Stevenson kind of gets into this and the
case for techno-optimism,
Cryptonomicon. Yeah,
without technology, the Nazis would have won.
Yeah, but if the Nazis didn't have their technology in the first place, well, maybe they wouldn't have gotten off the ground or something.
Which is why our technology must be better in order for good to prevail. But yeah, just closing thoughts potentially here. I was thinking about this. Regarding people's disdain for crypto and whatnot, like I wonder how much of it is driven by, like any adult living now basically had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a substantially cheaper price at this point, right? So if not, now it's like just under 100K. Previously it was 40K, 70K, whatever, 10K. Like everyone remembers some time where it was substantially cheaper, basically. So like I feel like there's a bit of Schadenfreude with each like pop of the crypto bubble, right? Where it's like, I told you it was all nonsense to begin with. Like now, people are getting what's owed to them.
It's very up and down, though, right? Like it could go either way, right? It could go the other way,
but so I wonder how much of that disdain is driven from not having bought, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, if people are not into it,
because I guess how many of those sorts of life-changing investment opportunities have there been sort of in the last few decades? I guess, Apple stock, Google stock, Tesla,
Facebook stock, maybe
Facebook. Well, all the tech stocks, right? That's it, right? So, I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
Could be,
But I also get from the outside how it's annoying.
Well, there's people like Quentin S. Crisp, who's my Reddit friend. I interviewed him about this, and it's kind of a text interview, and I was asking him about his opposition, and he basically just said he hates science, right? And I think a lot of that is from hating scientists.
What's that even mean?
Including Alan Turing. Like he says something like Alan Turing was like the poster boy for superficiality or something.
Why?
Well, I guess just the idea that some kind of awareness or consciousness can be computed. Well, I think from what I can, I mean, he can maybe clarify this, but I think just his philosophical position is extreme anti-computationalism, which is the idea that, you know, things like consciousness can't be reduced to a computational model. Which I think there's some other John Searle or something is
I've heard the
coming
name,
up with is also on this spectrum. But yeah, so he's quite he's definitely quite anti science and scientist. Down to the level of disdaining Alan Turing, which but I think is quite a daring move because Alan Turing's reputation is pretty secure, solid, right? So there's not been much anti-Turing sentiment.
But if you hate scientists, should you also not use the fruit of their labor? I guess, like, should you, in order to hate scientists, should you not, I don't know, have modern medicine or use a smartphone?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly that. You could ask those questions. I mean, you could delve into those questions. I think he kind of just hates the sense in which, well, again, it sort of is this sense where, like, along with science comes scientism,
right?
Which is sort of like a metaphysical position.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So he's like, you know, scientists are almost like the plague rats for scientism, which is kind of a take on things. Which, yeah, I mean, I would agree with to an extent. I mean, I do think there is. I do think there's a lot of scientistic thinking,
right,
as opposed to actual science, which is usually just a huge pain in the ass. And I mean, actual science is very, I almost want to say, unrewarding most of the time because you're just testing things. Which mostly, almost nothing works. Almost everything fails, and, like, you know, almost all theories are usually wrong, or like things aren't actually. The data doesn't make any sense. Like, so actual science is quite,
and, like, without application, the discovery is meaningless, right?
Yeah, like without I mean, most, like, actually being a scientist is not something I would. Seems quite thankless work most of the time, but I think it's more this idea of scientism, which
for sure
goes along with it. And he just says something. Yeah, he's like, I remember I was in school and hated science classes when they're trying to teach us that science.
Right.
And, you know, it's there's that sense in which well, I mean, there's a lot of exponents of science which are quite unlikable. You know, like Richard Dawkins or a lot of these people are, or, you know, even Elon Musk or something. There's a lot of unlikable people that are representing science. I mean, not that I would say most people representing other things are much better. I mean, I'd say mostly the public faces of, you know, writing or art or other things are also pretty disastrous most of the time. So
often can be that way.
I wouldn't say, but there certainly is a techno-pessimist strain of lots of people around. So that disdain science and scientists.
Cool. Well,
I think we're about ready.
Just over an hour. Let us know in the comments.
Cash or non-cash,
or do you hate technology?
Do you hate technology?
Why?
Do you hate science? Do you hate scientists?
Why do you hate crypto?
Do you hate Alan Turing? Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. DBLV on Instagram.
Justin Isis 93 on Instagram.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.